You're in the bullpen. You might want to watch where you're stepping. Here's American Shorthorn Association CEO Monty Souls.
Well, welcome to the Shorthorn Bull Pen. This is Monty Souls, your host, and today we have Ryan Sproul with us from Oklahoma. I'm going to let him give you his title and his work relationship and different things. This is going to be a little different outside look at some areas that we might not get into all the time, but I think it'll be quite interesting.
Yeah, so Ryan Sproul from Northwest Oklahoma, currently a community relations manager for Oklahoma Natural Gas, but had spent some time in the government world, worked in our lieutenant governor's office as a state director, and then had spent a lot of years with one of our U.S. senators, Jim Inhofe, was a field rep for him in Northwest Oklahoma, and then with my ag background, got to be an ag policy advisor to him and our D.C. staff. So. And then also, in my spare time, a commercial cow-calf producer as well.
Well, awesome. Well, I think the things that I guess I'm kind of interested in is this political thing. When we look at the political scene we got in the United States today, to find out a little bit what goes on behind the scenes, maybe at some times. So what is the job role for Jim Inhofe, ag advisor?
Yeah. So primarily for me, while the senator was in D.C. all week, we were his eyes and ears back there in Oklahoma. It was important for him when he was in our nation's capital working on issues for Oklahomans, that he had a good pulse of what was going on back in the state, what people were talking about and caring about. We had some legislation that started right there at a local level. That's kind of how it works, right? It starts at a local level and then makes it all the way through to Washington. So we're eyes and ears basically for him.
So I went to a presentation from the Kansas senator and Arkansas senator, a friend of mine, John Bozeman, and they brought in this entourage. And I mean, it was an entourage that come from the Kansas senator. I bet there was 4 or 5 people, 3 or 4 of them I knew. They were judges and breeders of cattle and shorthorn cattle and everything. And so I started asking them questions. So you were part of that entourage?
Probably so, yeah. We tried to utilize, experts, right, such as yourself at the, Shorthorn Association, or maybe it was the Farm Bureau County president, folks that were, boots on the ground, that were dealing with issues every day that, maybe we had somewhat of an understanding. And again, as an ag advisor to him and also our DC staff, we wanted to make sure we were saying the right things, asking the right questions, and really understanding what was going on, so that way we could actually fix the problem and not think, we didn't want to think we knew what the issue was if we really didn't.
So give the folks here a little bit of an example of maybe some of the things that you needed to make sure that the senator knew that was going on at home, so he could make the right decision in D.C.
Sure. There is an issue that we ran into, and this was brought up by some local sale barn owners there at Cherokee and Fairview, 2 great barns that we have right there in Northwest Oklahoma. And they were concerned about, we had all these protections for, folks that were selling cattle, but they didn't have any dealer protection, livestock dealer protections. And so we come up with this dealer statutory trust that, made sure that those folks get paid, as well. If you think back, this has been a lot of years ago, but that Eastern, livestock issue, and there was, a lot of sale barn owners and those dealer guys that didn't get paid. So we worked on some legislation. Took a couple of years to get that done. Government's a slow process, right? Sometimes, especially at the federal level, but that was something that started locally because we had eyes and ears on the ground, found it was an issue, and now we've got, it was called the SALE Act, and they passed it with an omnibus spending bill a couple of years ago. So it was a kind of a neat thing, used some input from LMA, just again, kind of going back to those experts, but that was kind of one of those fun things.
So you're really talking about being bonded so that
yes,
you're
sir.
Guaranteed payment from the stockyards. A lot of people don't understand the risk level there if you're not dealing with the bonded stockyards.
Yeah, as a producer, when I took those cattle into Fairview, I was covered, right? I was going to get paid, but that dealer's out there with a lot of money out, and so when they sold those cattle and whoever bought them, if they didn't pay their bill, like a big Eastern or whoever, that was kind of the big example. It protected them to make sure that they get paid, that they stay in business.
Really important to cattle producers. Doesn't matter where you're at in the United States. I mean, and a big company can go down and take a lot with them sometimes.
Yes, sir.
We already seen that when you make reference to Eastern. So you worked with the lieutenant governor or something. So,
Did.
So what was that role like?
You know, it was interesting. So that was on a state government level. You know, we worked on our big issues in the lieutenant governor's office were tourism, economic development, workforce development. So got to work on kind of some neat issues there, something that I didn't know a lot about coming in, but worked with a lot of the same people that I worked with when I worked for Senator Inhofe. But, you know, just promoting our state, you know, our lieutenant governor in Oklahoma, that was kind of his role, was kind of that chief promoter and marketer for the state of Oklahoma. So, I don't know, it was an interesting perspective to see how things worked on a state level versus the federal level. And in all honesty, some things work better, some things work slower. You know, it was just a neat perspective to see how it all kind of ties in.
We sat here on the outside looking in. A lot of times we hear a lot of things and,
Yes.
and different deals. So, lobbyists. Did
Yeah.
you ever have to deal with any lobbyists?
We
or were they
did.
calling you up wanting something?
A little bit, you know, and I think, kind of said, maybe some of those guys get a bad rap, and some of them deserve it too, right?
Yeah.
But, you know, we worked with a lot of good folks. You know, Oklahoma Farm Bureau, we had one of my great friends was that public policy director or lobbyist, I guess, if you will. Oklahoma Cattlemen's, Michael Kelsey's been a mentor of mine since I was a kid, you know. So, you know, we worked with a lot of those folks like that. You know, I mean, there's some of them that we kind of knew maybe we'd want to steer from, and we'd hear them out, and not that they wouldn't have good ideas, but a lobbyist is, you know, it's an important role, and there's a place for those folks, and, you know, we would hear, oh, this is an issue you got to fix from a lobbyist. Well, then we'd go to, you know, a producer meeting or something like that, and people actually on the ground, and it's like, hey, is this a problem for you? How can we fix it? You know, and sometimes they would have a different perspective than the lobbyists, and sometimes they matched up, you know, if they were a good, reputable person,
So
we'd work with them.
you guys really just kind of figured out the ones you wanted to listen to and wrote off the other guys.
Well, pretty much,
Kind of
yeah.
like we all would in any
Yes, sir.
instance when you run into things.
Yes.
It isn't maybe quite as big a deal as some people think it is because you guys can read through it.
You can, yeah. You know, and I worked for two great Oklahomans. You know, they were there for the right reasons. They weren't going to stick their necks out unless they knew it was something that, you know, folks actually wanted. It, you know, it wasn't just some one particular group coming and saying, oh, we got to have this and this is the best thing. Like us as staff would have to research that and talk and make sure it was.
I'm going to ask the personal question now because you've had the experience of dealing with the federal government and the U.S. Senator and then the experience dealing with the state lieutenant governor and so just personally, you said there's some differences, but which one did you prefer? Did you like better?
You know, working on that federal level, you know, I worked for such a great Oklahoman and Senator Inhofe, and you know, he took a little cowboy from Northwest Oklahoma under his wing. He expected a lot out of you. So I mean, it was a lot of work and long hours, but. You know, we'd get to go to D.C. every now and then and work, you know, cattlemen's would go up there and just, you know, he'd pull you on the Senate floor, just the experiences that you get to have that, you know, maybe if you were just the general public going to Washington, you don't get to do those type of things. So it was just, I really enjoyed that. He spent a lot of time with me, you know, and teaching me things and you know, just the experiences that I got to have. So I don't know, I'm probably a little partial there, I guess.
Well, you should be. I mean, Senator Inhofe, I mean, he just passed away here very
just
recently.
a couple of weeks ago.
Some folks may not realize that, but he had a long tenure there in D.C. He carried a pretty big stick from everything that I ever really realized, and he was up there a lot in our area there in Tulsa, that's where I live on weekends.
Right. Yep.
And so I actually got associated with him a little bit through a friend of mine that was an attorney.
Okay.
So I had a little bit of connection with him, but. Yeah, he understood the politics. He understood the give and the take, and a lot of people don't understand all that. You don't always get everything you want, but you kind of give and take, and if we all could do that bit more in our government situations, it would probably make life a lot better.
Oh gosh, yeah. You know, it's you know, something's better than nothing, right? And you know, I think that was a legacy that he left. I mean, he would dig in, and I mean, he kind of had pretty strong opinions sometimes. You know, he'd tell you where he was at, But at the end of the day, he could work with Democrats. You know, he could work with folks like Barbara Boxer, a liberal senator from California on the Environment and Public Works Committee. So it's everything infrastructure. So, you know, highway bills, water bills, things like that. They got more done in that committee than probably anybody. And you know, it shows that at the end of the day, you can have differences of opinion. You don't have to give up your principles necessarily, but at the end of the day, if we can get something for American people, you know, and folks across the country.
And we don't hear about that. We don't hear that they got things done. We don't hear about those things. So government does work in some ways.
Yes, it does.
So now you've left the government role, and now you're working with
Oklahoma Natural Gas.
Okay, Oklahoma, and so that's not a private deal. That's a public or private.
So we're on the gas distribution side for. We're the largest natural gas distribution company in Oklahoma, and then we also have quite a bit of assets in Kansas and then Texas too. So it's strictly on the distribution side. We're not on the production side of natural gas. It's what flows from that meter to your home or business, and so yeah, it's been. Natural gas is a pretty big industry in Oklahoma, so it's kind of nice just to focus on one thing.
What's a day like in the natural gas business?
So my role as a community relations person is to go out and work with a mayor or a city manager or a business owner, and just be involved in those communities, and go to chamber banquets and support school projects, different things like that. Just be a good community partner in those communities that we serve. So,
okay.
Yeah.
So we're here in Lexington, Kentucky, with the Shorthorn Symposium, Make Your Herd a Winner, and we've just gone through 2 days of talks and tours, and we got one more tour yet this afternoon and go to Claiborne Farms. So what made you come? You're not really a Shorthorn breeder, your family is. You're married into the families,
Yes.
and it's shirt tail relation almost,
That's
I guess we
right.
could say,
Yeah.
But so what made you and your wife decide to come to this event?
We're commercial cow-calf producers, so red Angus cows, and we've been using some Shorthorn bulls on those cows, and it really complements, the red Angus breed. And I'm a big believer in crossbreeding, and so it just seemed like a great opportunity. And we've heard from some great speakers, talking about being, a student of the industry, right, and continuing that knowledge. So the program that you guys put together, just really caught our interest.
Well, good.
We're kind of some horse racing fans too, so it was kind of like, oh my gosh, like here's a great opportunity to
Awesome.
come enjoy ourselves, get to spend some time with some family and just meet some folks too. It's been a great experience.
So what was the most attractive message that you got here in the last 2 days? What would you say was the best message that you got that you liked the best?
Yeah, for me it was just sharing our story and using data, being able to utilize that data a little more and how important it is, and maybe we could do a better job of reporting that back to the association or to Toby and them at Walkaroo, and we're buying their bulls and how they're working for us, and just sharing that, because I think it makes us all better. So
It'll make the whole breed better. It makes all the cattle. It makes the industry better. Yes. Quite honestly, we don't make as many mistakes, and people are going to have a better eating experience when we're all
That's
done.
right. Yep.
So what is one of the hardships? What would be your biggest hardship that you see you have in northwestern Oklahoma?
Well, it's rainfall. It's pretty tough to grow any grass if we don't get any moisture. I will say we're actually pretty green for this time of year. It's mid-July, here, and we're probably greener now than we were back in the spring, which is very unusual for us. But yeah, just the weather, you can't control that. But, as a young guy too, just trying to get in, land's expensive, all these inputs are expensive. Yes, the cattle market's great, but all those inputs are high too. So just the dollars that it takes, that's why we're, working some other jobs and supporting our cow habit, I guess, if you will, with some outside dollars.
Well, as I had an old friend of mine say, there was an association man for many years. Everybody needs a nurse cow.
That's right.
And that's really our business today in many ways. I don't care whether it's Shorthorn or what purebred breed it is. That's really the business. Most people have an off-farm job. At least one of them have an off-farm job, if not both. And many farmers do. Many of the farmers do. So it is a way of life. It's the way it works today and everything. So. Well, I hope you've enjoyed being here. We've enjoyed having you.
Yep.
We've all gone to the to the bourbon joint.
Yeah.
Had a little whiskey, and
Yes.
and we've had good fellowship here this week, and we're really wrapping it up here, and we're going to go out. This is the last day, and I think we've tired out most of our attendees here today, and we've had over 100 people here today, and we're at the Bluegrass Stockyards in Lexington, Kentucky, and it's been a great week. Staff put on a great show, and our speakers have been tremendous, and we're glad to wrap it up and go home because we're tired, but it's folks like Ryan and his wife that come that make this worthwhile to us. So with that, we'll wrap it up. This is Monty Souls, another episode of the Shorthorn Bull Pen.